You'll just join us as usual. Anyway, just to say good evening, it's 8:88 today, 8 and 8 p.m. In just a moment, I'll introduce my guests and we'll get to our conversation. And along the way, I think if people have any questions about this topic, which is it's a heavy topic that needs to be discussed, do feel free to put your comments and questions across. Yeah. So I know if some of you are having your dinner, or some of you who are overseas, you can join us. If you're in Europe or in the US, it's probably just to start the day. For the rest of us, we're very focused on our dinner in Malaysia. Okay, we'll just wait for a bit. Okay. Good evening, everybody. As I was saying, it's August 8, and it's 8 p.m. It's Safe Sport Day, and I'm here with Serena Sundaraja, who is from Safe Sport Malaysia. You may also know her. If you don't, maybe you weren't born at the time. But she, in 1998, of course, she was one of the four rhythmic gymnasts who gave us a gold medal at the 1990 Commonwealth Games. And she's, of course, with Safe Sport Malaysia, an advocate for safe sports. She's also the founding principal of Serena Rhythmic Gymnastics Club, SRGC. Good evening, Serena.
Good evening, Frida. Thank you so much for having me today.
And so it's good, and no, I think it's a very important day to talk about this safe sport, right? And I think a lot of people are not aware of what safe sport mean, or they have an inkling of what it is. But maybe you can just start off, even the whole day today, safe sport day, how long it's been around and why it was started.
So at its core, Safe Sport is about optimizing the sport experience for all. And this includes athletes, coaches, sports administrators, officials, support staff, and others in the sports environment. So, I mean, when you join a sport, there's a reasonable expectation that the sport environment will be free from abuse and misconduct, and but it's also accessible, safe, and welcoming. So it is just this is what Safe Sport is all about: to provide a safe and positive playing environment for everyone.
Right. I see a LinkedIn user say, "Hello, Frida and Sarina. I can't see your name from this screen, but anyway, thank you for joining us." And of course, Safe Sport Day is celebrate. Well, not celebrate. It's in its 10th year this year, right? They recognize today as Safe Sport Day as well. Now, this and we've been hearing these stories in the US, even here in Malaysia, of what's been happening, with athletes, or just things that's not so healthy. When you think about sports, you want it to be in a healthy environment. Why is this cause so personal to you?
Okay, so I've been in sports for almost 28 years now as an athlete, coach, administrator, and now an advocate. And while I appreciate the values and principles that I've learned in sports, I unfortunately sports is also a high risk environment that abuse and misconduct can happen, and that most parents are unaware of. So it's very important that we understand how that abuse and misconduct can happen, and it happens in every sport and
Right.
in every level as well. And being a victim of sexual harassment in sport as an athlete, I've experienced and I understand the lasting impact that is associated to abuse.
Right.
So this is personal to me, and also as a coach. My youngest gymnast is 3 years old, and when I train them, I try to put myself in that position whereby these girls, they come to the club for one reason: to be a great athlete,
Right.
and their parents have so much high hopes and dreams for them to one day represent Malaysia at the highest level, right?
Mm.
And it is our legal duty of care and obligation to ensure that these athletes, these children that is under our care, are well taken care of, to that their physical well-being is taken care.
Right. And I know, like, when you look at someone, as you're saying, is three, right? You are in that sporting community and you listen to your parents and you listen to your coach, right? And this is just a whole idea, and you don't even know what's right or wrong. at that point, and you just you just sort of tolerate, to realize, years later, what have I, done? And I can imagine what's going through. And of course, you started the Safe Sport Malaysia, and you got a committee, and you asked me to be part of it. And there's a few of us as well, Chris Raj, so you got a lawyer, you've got, Datuk Yasmin, I haven't met Tini, and of course Irene. And the reason, why did you get this, this motley crew of people together?
Frida, thank you so much for being part of Safe Sport. I know you're an advocate for women's empowerment, and we've talked about this. I think a few years ago
Mm,
about getting involved in sports and how we can help to increase the participation of women and girls in sports and to empower them, to give them a platform to speak up. And I'm so glad that finally we're able to do something. I mean, I've heard and read so much about your achievements and your initiatives empowering women. And I'm so happy to have you and, as you said, Christopher Raj, Irene, Yasmin, Tini, Shamsul, they all play a specific role in the association with their, specific expertise as well.
right. And for me, I just think, like, for a kid, you've shared some stories, and
Mm,
they've come out as well. Though there is the fear of reporting, right? It's not just with the athletes, right? Sometimes people who see something wrong, and they're afraid, the whistleblowers, right? They're afraid to speak up about it as well. And so, they don't have a voice, and they don't even know what's the right code of conduct. And this is, so when I look at it, it was not just about the athletes. Sometimes you also hear, you don't want the Johnny Amber story, right, where someone's also wrongly accused because there is no proper code of conduct, right? So anything can be, misconstrued. But because if there is a code of conduct, then there is less of these things happening, right?
mhm. I agree. So currently in Malaysia, we don't have protective laws, to protect our
Mm,
athletes. So that leaves them, vulnerable to sexual abuse and harassment as well. And one of the main causes is we don't have a comprehensive code of conduct. What constitutes safe language, safe behavior, safe touch between an athlete and and a coach.
mm,
So especially when it comes to gymnastics. Um,
right.
so the reason that safe sport also became very talked about topic because in 2017, because of the USA Gymnastics Larry Nassar's case,
Yeah.
it was huge. And that shook like the sports world to its core because Larry Nassar, he's a well-respected physician with the team, and he had been, abusing and harassing young girls, young
Right.
gymnasts under his care for more than 10 years.
Right.
So I mean, sexual harassment and abuse in Malaysian sports is not new. We've heard
Yeah.
so many stories, and but the most important thing is when a coach or an administrator or someone in a position of authority and power
Mm,
is found to have abused a minor athlete, the sanctions are not standardized. In fact, a lot of coaches try to abuse. They're still, coaching.
right.
So yeah, that's a concern.
Right, right. And then, like, maybe they're not in the government body, but they're still out there, right? So recently, the anti-sexual harassment bill has been passed, right? People say, isn't that enough? How is this different from, coming with the safe sport thing, right? Isn't they think it's that would be enough? Your thoughts around that?
So Frida, a lot of people have this misconception thinking that okay, so with the anti-sexual harassment bill means we do not need a safe spot act
Mm,
because most of the laws or provisions that's inside the SH bill does not expand its jurisdiction to the sports landscape. So I'll give you, for instance, the Safe Sport Act, right? One of the four effects is actually to have mandatory reporting because most of these cases they go unreported. So
mm,
that actually perpetuates the whole, abuse in sports. And So now, if you are a bystander, or you're a parent, or you're an administrator, or anyone, and you happen to see a child, being abused, then it is your legal obligation now to report it within 24
Right.
hours to the Safe Spot Center. So
Right.
then it's also an increase in standard of care. That means every sports organization, and that means not only national levels, but also the grassroots levels,
Right.
to make sure that there is a reporting and resolution mechanism in place for athletes and parents to complain. And then you also have mandatory safe sport training. So this
Mm.
um, you're talking about minor athletes, adult athletes,
Right.
coaches, administrators, even volunteers. So they have specific safe sport training,
Mm.
just to educate them. Okay, if this happens, what can what kind of actions can you take? And then
Mm.
you also have the whistleblower protection, because I know, I'm not sure if a friend, Tan Geet Chu, she's online now,
Right.
but she happens to be an administrator, and she had she was actually moved to another department because she was helping a young minor gymnast to file a complaint after being abused by her coach. So these are the four effects of the Safe Sport Act. And under the Act, then we will have the Safe Sport Center. And
Mm.
this center is to provide a safe reporting mechanism. So then it depends on the severity of the case. So within 72 hours, someone will will review the case and to see, okay, should the athlete and the coach be separated? Because
Right.
what's happening now is, for example, if if an athlete is found abused, and
Mm.
he or she files a report, and then the next day, he or she has to choose, okay, should I go back to training?
Right.
And it can be quite traumatic because you have to face the perpetrator
Mm.
again.
Right, right. Okay, so this is all these underlying issues, and of course, I'll post a link of that article. That Gekchu was involved in, and what she wanted to do, and of course, hi Badri as well. Where are we right now? You're hoping to make this into an act. Where are we right now in this fight to make this an act?
So the Safe Sport Act is meant to be tabled in December. That's what our sports minister has announced.
Hmm.
But of course, the act will take some time. So as a midterm solution or action is to develop a safe sport code. So, like I said, the code is actually a code of conduct, what is safe, touch, language, and behavior. So, this then be enforced by inserting a bylaw into our current policy.
Right.
So, that will help.
All right. So right now, Singapore and the U.S. have codes of conduct. I think there's only law in the U.S. at the moment, right?
Yeah, so the US is the only country that has enacted a Safe Sport Act. And then in 2020, they have enacted another law, which is the Athletes Empowerment Act. So now their act is a very comprehensive one that not only provides protection like safety, but also empowerment and welfare of the athletes.
Right. Earlier on you were saying that, I believe in women empowerment and gender equality. And that's the thing, right? With the sports, it's not just affecting girls. This sort of thing, I know this article came out about this guy who, it took him 20 years to report the fact that he was, having to perform, something not so right as a young boy for his male coach for what, 17, for 7 years from
Yeah.
10 to 10 to 17, right? And you don't know who to sound out because you're afraid to tell your parents. And of course, you don't dare to sound out your coach, which you have to see week after week,
You
right?
know, what is heartbreaking about that story? So when I heard about this story, I just broke down because I cannot imagine, being so young and
Yeah.
to
Innocent.
and innocent to be asked to give oral sex to his coach for more than 5 years, I think, and it's really traumatic to just. Um, to because these are all your friends, right? And these are athletes who are sacrificing their time and effort and years just to train and compete for Malaysia, and then to go through this kind of
Yeah.
traumatic experience. It shouldn't happen in the first place.
Right.
But what was not right about it is that so the head coach knew about it, and then this coach, they found out about his actions. And then instead of taking action towards him, but then he was just let go of his coaching job. And then he went on to set up his,
Own.
academy. And then he was back into the system again. So this, yeah.
Right. Okay. So these are some of the some of the issues, right? Now, for those that are not in the sporting community, right? How is this important? Of course, if you guys, if you have any questions for Sarina, please feel free to ask them. Hi, Sadiq from Pakistan. Yeah. So for those that are not in the sporting community, how is this pertinent for those who are not in the sporting community?
Frida, I mean, safe sport is for everyone. So it's not just for athletes, because you may have your brother or your sister or someone in your family or friend that does sport, and we're not just talking about at the elite level, but
Right.
we're also talking about, for example, participating in a marathon.
Right.
So that actually falls under the act as well. So
Okay.
so Safe Sport protects everyone that is active in sports to
Right.
ensure that, okay, whatever environment that they're taking part is safe and positive and is free from abuse and misconduct.
And that's what it is, right? I mean, that's the whole idea behind sports, right? The actually the end objective. And I'm just thinking like boys going for their football
Yeah.
classes and things like that, right? You want to know that your kids are safe because they don't know how to speak up, right? And then they just feel shameful. I mean, like I think every woman has been harassed, sexually harassed in some way. Like a wolf whistle is harassment, right? And this is something that maybe men don't understand, but it makes you feel unsafe. And even when like something has happened when I was 18, right? I was afraid. This was in a bus situation. I was afraid. You feel guilty, you feel angry with yourself for not being able to speak up. And I'm 18, right? So I'm not a child, but you're still terrified, right? So what more if from the younger and they think this is acceptable behavior. Now, okay, how can I guess the public at large support something like this?
Is is to start having conversations, with your kids, with your friends, family, and talk about, okay, why safe sport is important and what can we do. Because talking about it will start to create awareness about the topic itself. Because currently at large, people think that safe sport is only, for women and girls,
Mm,
and it's only affecting like elite athletes, but
mm,
it's not. So
right,
even when they go to school, when
yeah,
they go to grassroots clubs or
right,
university, or those private gym,
yes,
so all of that, any sports organization, it falls under safe sport. So it's
right.
to have, to start having conversations so that people will feel comfortable talking about this kind of, because until now people find it a taboo.
Mm,
There's a
yeah,
stigma around sexual
right.
harassment and abuse, whether it's in sports or in a work environment.
Right. And I guess like you trying to do this as well, there have been some challenges along the way. What would the challenges be? People not aware, people think they're doing enough. What is it that you're going through at the moment? Just trying to rally the people together. Would that be one of the things?
Um, Currently now with the act, I mean, I've been advocating for safe sport for a few years now, since 2019. Some of the challenges that I face is resistance from the top levels, actually,
Mm,
from
right.
sports organization who are in fact responsible for safeguarding our athletes. Because I don't know, they think that, okay, that it's a PR problem, but it's not.
Right.
Um, and then it's also about getting the buy-in, because they think that, oh, the current system is already working, so why do we need a new one?
Mm,
So, but we still hear and read stories about this abuse, and we know that
right.
there is more that can be
Right.
done to prevent this from happening. And if the US model, which currently now proves to be effective,
Mm.
so why not?
Right. And I think, like, as parents, right, if you send your kids to judo classes or what have taekwondo classes and all that, you know what are the right things to do. You can bring up these topics with your children as well. If you know what is the right way to behave and how your coach should behave, these kind of conversations need to happen. And as young as possible, the moment they're going for these classes, they should know the right thing. And people sometimes don't know what the right thing is, right? So they don't bring it up, right? Or they're hoping that this will never happen, but it's best for all of us to be aware. Now, I brought up a couple of things. Anyone's got any question, feel free again to ask them. I don't, is there anything else like you want to bring? Because there are no real stats around it, right? Not everyone's going to say, 1 in 10, I don't know if there are any, hardcore stats around this at the moment.
So in Malaysia, yes, we don't have facts and
Mm,
figures about sexual harassment and abuse and Malaysian sports. However, like in 2017, after the diving case, one of the diver claims that she was raped by her coach.
mm,
So then the ministry established a task force to investigate.
mm,
But these findings till today are still unpublished.
mm.
And just recently, a couple of months ago, the ministry they also conducted a safe spot survey just to understand what are the prevalence of sexual harassment and abuse among
Right,
current and former athletes, administrators.
right.
Um, so even that findings are still not published. So it's very
Mm,
difficult for us to understand and make any corrective actions because none of these facts and figures are made available to us as compared to most of the countries that you
mm,
can find reports and
mm.
stats on it.
Right. No, but you were saying as well, earlier on, if you're like a national athlete and when say you report against somebody, you're afraid of the repercussions of reporting. Will I still be on the team? And then if nothing's acted upon, I still have to look at his face or her face. You know what I mean? When it comes to all that. Yeah. So anything else you want to bring up around this as well? Just want to bring this tension to people to understand there's such a day, Safe Sport Day, August 8th, and that it is something that it affects all of us, right? You're going to have kids, you have your grandchildren, what have you. Whether when they go for their classes, when they go, what they need to know, you need them to be in a safe environment because this is the world we live in. And if we teach them the
Mm.
right way as well, I mean, as much as possible, and you are aware as well what needs to be done, that makes a difference. Yeah. Anything else, Arena?
I believe that one way is to increase education and awareness. So it's to actually educate ourselves by going online and finding stories and research on the safe spot and to understand. Okay, so when a behavior that you think it's this is not right. So
Mm,
what can I do and how to respond to these predatory behaviors. That's very important because most often we know okay that may be not right, but okay, do we do something about it? What can we do?
mm.
Yeah.
Right. Laura Lynn has a very interesting question. Laura said, why haven't these survey results been published?
you
That's
know,
our answer.
To be honest, well, I've written to the ministry to ask them, okay, can we get this, findings? But I suppose, truthfully, I mean, the truthful answer is that they're afraid.
Yeah.
Like I said, the bad PR because um,
Yeah, right. So this is something, and that's why we need the code of conduct, right? I mean, this is where if we have this in place, of course, when we have this in place, then we'll be able to sort of change things. But yeah, so this is, Laurelyn, good question.
I'm sorry, I don't have the right answer for Laura.
So yeah, okay. So anyway, it is important. I hope you all have paid attention today. August 8th again, Safe Sport Day, and really, as I was saying, it's a responsibility for all that we should do our part. And thank you for that question. But yeah, okay. Moving on. Like how would you like corporations to be part of this? How can they support this? Maybe if a multinational is listening and they want to be supportive of this, what can they do? Should they participate? Should they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenge now is resources
Mm,
because so besides urging the ministry to develop a safe sport code,
mm,
which they're already not done, but they have
mm.
conducted a safe sport code workshop last week, which we were part of, was part of, and that's already a positive step forward. But now is to increase the awareness and to have develop education and training programs for
Mm,
everyone across Malaysia, and
right,
that requires resources
right.
financially as well. And we are looking forward to large corporations to be part, whether it's a collaboration or a partnership. But yes,
Right. Right.
we welcome. Yeah.
Even before it gets enacted as a law, right? There's so many ways that we can start promoting this or bringing it to light, talking about it, and making sure that the public at large know, what's right, what's wrong, what you can do. So I mean, we can get the code of conduct understood by a lot of people, and hopefully that will change things, and and then there is greater, I guess, greater awareness, maybe greater reinforcement will be put in place.
Yeah, to get everyone to understand what the code is all about and how they can adopt more safer
Mm.
training practices.
Right, because you should be enjoying sports. You should be loving sports. You should be, if you want to go on a national level, it is really stressful enough, right? You went through it, trying to get the Commonwealth, getting to get that medal, right? I mean, you go through these stresses. I'm sure you enjoy it too, but as it is, you really go through so much. Right? You don't need this, hindrance along the way. So, if there are any final thoughts around this arena, if there are no more questions for public as well, any final thoughts before, we say goodnight?
Um, Not really, but I'm just very happy that we are here today to celebrate Safe Sport Day. It's our first year celebrating, and this is already a huge positive step for Malaysian sport. And
Mm,
I'm very grateful and thankful to the Ministry of Youth and Sports for being very supportive of
right.
Safe Sport Act and the code itself and the whole initiative in trying to make our sports environment better. So
Okay.
I look forward to more support from the respective sports authorities and organization as well to be part of this because we can't do this alone. So everyone will have to play their part. So thank
Right.
you.
So we're moving in the right direction, right? I mean, we are making some movements, and I think that's positive. And of course, with more people sounding out and talking about this, bringing more awareness, and beyond the committee, right? I mean, if there's something that can be talked about at large, not just in Malaysia, but of course around the world. So with that, it is Safe Sport Day. Thank you, Sarina, for joining us. Sarina from Safe Sport Malaysia. Have a lovely evening, everyone. Bye.